Picture this. It's the early 20th century in rural America. A mail carrier knocks on a front door. But instead of the morning newspaper or a package from relatives, he's holding a 4-year-old child by the hand. A huge wax seal and a post office stamp are displayed right on the boy's coat. No, this isn't a kidnapping or madness. This was a completely legal service that Americans used with great pleasure. How on earth did living children suddenly become mail packages? And why did this government allow it? Today, we are telling one of the most absurd stories of the last century. It all began on January 1st, 1913. On this day, the United States Post Office Department launched a long-awaited service, parcel post, which allowed the delivery of large packages weighing up to 11 kilograms 24 pounds. Before this, people could only mail letters and small envelopes, while large shipments were handled by private companies for a fortune. For ordinary farmers, this was a revolution. Finally, they could cheaply ship produce, grain, and tools. But while drafting the regulations, postal officials made a fatal mistake. They listed everything you couldn't mail like poisons, explosives, and snakes, but completely forgot to specify that a package couldn't be a human being. American resourcefulness kicked in instantly. Why buy an expensive train ticket to send your kid to grandma's for the summer, when you can just stick a stamp on them and drop them off at the post office? Of course, nobody was nailing kids into wooden crates or throwing them into bags with coal. It looked much more humane, though no less bizarre. Parents would bring their child to the post office, where the kid was weighed to ensure they were under the weight limit. The parents paid for the stamps based on the item's weight, stuck them right onto the child's coat or jacket, and the clerk stamped them. The very first live shipment was a little boy named James Beagle from Ohio. His parents mailed him to his grandmother, who lived just about a mile away. The boy's weight was just under the limit, and his shipping cost ran his parents a mere 15 cents. By the way, the boy was insured by the post office for a whopping $50. But appetites grew, and so did the distances. The most famous case involved 4-year-old Charlotte May Piersdorf. Her parents decided to send her to her grandmother, on the other side of the state, 120 kilometers 75 miles away. A passenger ticket cost serious money, but the postal rate for the girl's weight was only 53 cents. She was simply put into a mail train car, traveling among boxes and letters. So, who looked after them? The mail carriers. Back then, in rural America, the postman was the most respected and trusted person in town. Everyone knew them. Mail carriers walked the kids by the hand, carried them in canvas bags if they got tired, fed them sandwiches along the way, and delivered them safely right into the hands of their relatives. Stories about flying babies quickly hit the newspaper headlines. A wave of discussion swept the country. Some were touched by the kindness of the mail carriers, while others thought it was insane. It got to the point where people started jokingly writing letters to newspapers asking, "Please tell me what rate I should use to mail my child so he grows up well-behaved." But the post office leadership was not amused. Officials in Washington realized the colossal liability they were taking on. What if a child got lost? What if they fell ill on the road? A train is not a warehouse for living people. By 1914, this Postmaster General issued a strict order. Accepting human beings for transport was strictly prohibited. However, out of habit, children were still carried in remote states for about another year. The loophole was finally closed for good in 1915, after the story of a young girl named Maud Smith, who was mailed over a distance of 40 kilometers 25 miles, became the final straw. This story went down in history books as a wild example of parental thriftiness and an era when the world was a little less obsessed with safety regulations. What do you think of this travel hack? Would you ever risk mailing your younger brother or sister? Let me know in the comments, hit the like button if these facts surprised you, and subscribe to the channel. There are plenty more crazy stories coming up.